What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Conor McGregor takes aim at Khabib Nurmagomedov after recent comments. This past weekend, Usman Nurmagomedov secured Bellator MMA gold when he defeated Patricky Pitbull via unanimous decision in Chicago. The win was a huge one, not only for the undefeated Dagestani prospect, but also his trainer, UFC Hall of Famer Khabib Nurmagomedov, who coached Usman to victory. Following his cousin's win, Khabib Nurmagomedov spoke about the dominance of Dagestani fighters in combat sports. After his reign as UFC champion, Nurmagomedov continued his father's plan by making the transition to coaching, where he has since led countless fighters to big victories alongside Javier Mendez.
Yeah, right now we have current UFC and Bellator lightweight champions. And this is amazing. This is amazing. I hear like long time ago when one guy was talking about we here to take over, but we here to take over. We, like 13 people, we have combined win in MMA almost 300 fights. And this is crazy. Nobody ever did this in MMA before. It's never happened, you know, and I'm very happy because of this, because I know it was my father hard work, the way how he invests us, the way how he teach us, the way how he push us, you know, it's like everything right now, even now, his legacy keep going, you know.
The comment, of course, alluded to a famous line from Conor McGregor regarding the Irish invasion in the UFC. At the time, the way McGregor saw things, he and the rest of the SBG Ireland fighters like Artem Lobov, Aisling Daly, and Gunnar Nelson were prepared to run the fight game for years to come. The way the former two-division champion saw things, Nurmagomedov's comments needed to be met with a fierce response. He took to Twitter to insult the father's plan Team Khabib has continued to promote since the death of his dad. It was yet another seemingly low blow for McGregor, who has made controversial comments about the death of Nurmagomedov's father before. So far, no response yet from the Eagle. However, he did state during the interview that he was committed to sticking to his promise of never fighting again. Leon Edwards hasn't forgiven Jorge Masvidal for backstage scuffle. Several years ago, when Jorge Masvidal landed his infamous three-piece and a soda combination on Leon Edwards backstage, it seemed as though the UFC had some easy matchmaking on their hands, with the backstage altercation providing plenty of promotional footage and the two men bringing plenty of animosity. The only thing left to do was to book the fight. At the time, it seemed as though Masvidal was not interested in a fight, with his sights set on the UFC title. Edwards appeared to be an afterthought. Without a lot of hype behind his name, it didn't matter that Rocky was one of the toughest fights in the division. Masvidal had bigger fish to fry. Fast forward, and the UFC booked the bout for last year. With the fight between Masvidal and Edwards booked, it seemed like the lingering beef would finally be squashed when the two men stepped into the octagon at UFC 269. Unfortunately, just a month before the fight, Masvidal pulled out of the fight with an undisclosed injury, forcing the UFC to scrap the fight. After Edwards' stunning 5th-round KO win over Kamaru Usman, the newly crowned champ found himself in the hot seat as the division's prospects eagerly vied for a chance at the belt. Although many laughed off Masvidal calling for a title shot, Edwards revealed that he hadn't forgotten their beef and wanted to get the last word in. During a recent interview, he revisited the possibility of fighting Masvidal, saying,
"No, Masvidal, that's what it is. That's beef, you know. But I don't like him. Like backstage, we had like a scuffle backstage, you know. We throw a few shots. Like, that was in London as well, my hometown, you know. But they took him and moved him and hit him and flew him out of the country, you know. So I didn't see him since. That's like three years ago."
In his words, despite the fact that 3 years have passed, he can't get over the altercation. Considering Masvidal seemingly got in several cheap shots on Edwards as he was approaching, it's no surprise that he's eager to get revenge. Of course, Masvidal is likely to face Gilbert Burns next, if both men get their wish. The two have been linked to a fight on the UFC's upcoming Brazil pay-per-view card, as well as the UFC's upcoming UK card, where Edwards and Usman are rumored to have their trilogy fight. Paddy Pimblett breaks down 50-pound weight cut. It's no secret that fan favorite Paddy the Baddy Pimblett puts himself through a grueling weight cut in order to make 155 pounds. Although he's already picked up 2 wins this year, he's got his sights set on a third before the end of the year, when he squares off against Jared Gordon on December 10th at UFC 282. Ahead of that fight, Pimblett will cut weight from nearly 200 pounds to a lean 155 pounds in order to fight, before then ballooning back up after the bout. Although fighters like Alexander Volkanovski have cautioned him against the practice of cutting massive amounts of weight for fear of the long-term damage, Pimblett seems to have things down to a science. With less than a month to go until his showdown with Jared Gordon, Pimblett broke down the process in a fight camp vlog, explaining that although there's a method to the madness, it isn't exactly rocket science.
There's no rocket science to it, it's not hard. Get yourself in a calorie deficit. Why do you think I go so fat? Because I go from eating like 1,500, 2,000 calories a day to eating like 8,000 a day. That's why the weight piles on, lad. And that's why it comes off so easy.
Of course, Pimblett does have a nutritionist that helps him with the process. After having an admittedly brutal weight cut for his last fight with Jordan Levitt, Paddy the Baddy has no plan to deviate from the weight cutting regimen when it comes to making weight for the event. With less than a month to go until the two men are set to square off inside the octagon, we want to hear from you. How do you see things going when Paddy the Baddy and Jared Gordon square off at UFC 282? Give us your predictions in the comments section below. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Betting controversy continues as James Krause reportedly pulled from cornering duties. The UFC made headlines recently when it was announced that fighters, their teams, and their coaches can no longer bet on fights. The news was pretty staggering considering the fact that fighters and their teams have a very long and public history of betting on themselves prior to fights. From dominant champions like Ronda Rousey and her team betting on their fighter to win, to up-and-coming fighters like Justin James who bet on themselves and then lost, the practice has become somewhat common in MMA. That all changed recently when the new rule emerged. Shortly after, there was some extremely controversial betting action surrounding a fight between Darrick Minner and Shailan Nurmagomedov this month at UFC Fight Night 214, where the lines went through a major shift in the middle of the card. With Nurmagomedov becoming the heavy favorite, it seemed strange when Minner went down with an apparent knee injury moments into the fight. The incident saw the UFC's betting integrity partner, Don Best Sports, open an investigation into the situation. Although it is ongoing, Krause, who has a podcast where he frequently discusses upcoming betting lines for cards, was then pulled from cornering duties at the last minute this weekend when Miles Johnson was preparing to fight at UFC Vegas 65. Although Johns declined to go into detail at the time, he stated that he was sure fight fans and media members would hear about why Krause was pulled sooner rather than later. So far, no word yet from the UFC. However, the situation hasn't sat too well with fighters from Krause's team, who could be left without a coach despite the fact that he isn't officially suspended. Stay tuned for updates as they become available. And now for our breaking news story of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the biggest fight, obviously.
That's exactly what he said. He said you're the biggest fight. That's exactly his exact words.
Doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Anybody I fight is going to be the biggest fight in the division. So obviously the biggest fight. I feel like me versus Henry is a bigger fight than me versus Aljo.
They told you in Vegas that regardless of how things shake out, your next fight is for the title. Is that fair?
That's accurate, yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Scott Coker talks Dillon Danis' future in MMA. Dillon Danis has continued to make headlines in recent months. The former grappling coach for Conor McGregor has made a name for himself in the MMA community for all the wrong reasons over the years. It seems as though Danis can't keep his name out of the headlines. Whether he's calling out a fighter he has no realistic chance of fighting, engaging in a brawl on the street, or simply trolling online, Danis has begun to receive attention that's usually reserved for stars. Given that most of his interactions are controversial ones that include insults and callouts, it's not entirely surprising when Danis gets involved in an altercation outside of the cage. Recently, he and his team got into a full-on brawl during Media Day for an upcoming DAZN boxing event. The brawl occurred after Danis slapped the hat off a YouTuber turned boxer's head, marking the second incident that day for Bellator's Danis. Given how much trash talking he does, one would think Danis would remain active. The reality is anything but the opposite. Danis has fought just twice in his MMA career, picking up 2 submission wins under the Bellator banner. Despite that, he hasn't fought since 2019 when he defeated Max Humphrey by a first-round submission. The way Bellator CEO Scott Coker sees things, the situation has become frustrating. He spoke to media members after Bellator 288 saying,
"I'm not sure what to think about it, but all I gotta say is Anthony and to Dillon, you shouldn't be out there fighting for free, if you want to fight for free, please give me a call. But, you're a professional prize fighter and, you should fight in the cage or, do it in the ring but I'm not sure what the tactics there are."
So far, no word yet from Danis. However, he has been reportedly booked to fight KSI on January 14th in a boxing match for DAZN. Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to see more videos just like this. See you next time.